Well, folks, some of you were probably here when the founders Tea-Party Patriots first began. I was not. I'm a latecomer. I've been involved in, I guess, about 4 years now. And it's, of course, a wonderful thing. But tonight's first speaker is one of the founders Tea-Party Patriots. It began on tax day, April 15, 2009, in Courthouse Square. And they had a get-together right before Independence Day in Miller Park by Dansbury Depot. And the main impetus behind all that was our first speaker tonight, Steve Miller. He, with Caroline Strasser and Mike Avery, gave birth to the Tea-Party movement in Monroe County. And I'm very grateful. It's had a wonderful effect on who we've elected in Monroe County. We hold the commissioners, majority, our state reps, the 3 of them have spoken before these Tea-Party mics. Our state senator has as well. Each of the commissioners has. We've hosted a great amount of debates, and we've really helped to get locals elected. And when we've either made mistakes, we've learned from them and corrected them, as was the case in Pocono Township, where one of our steering committee really led the drive to turn Pocono into a township of first class and eliminate the shenanigans that were going on by the township supervisors. So Steve Miller has been a lifelong resident of the area, growing up in Bangor. He's lived in East Stroudsburg borough for the past 20 years. He's got a day job like all of us do as a sales rep for a major company. He's a homesteader, and he's just an expert in the area of rites and preparations. Some of us are old enough to remember the old drills in schools to always be prepared. That doesn't happen as much these days, but it's always wise to be prepared. The Bible certainly talks about saving and being prepared for lean times. Steve has been married to the same woman for 30 years, Maggie, and they're plenty active in the community, of course online, on Facebook, and in the email chains we all read. Would you please take a moment to give a nice warm welcome to Steve Miller.
Thanks, Steve. Adjust the microphone.
I'm not sure what the setback on this mic should be, if I'm too close or if I'm getting feedback, let me know. So yeah, thank you, Pete. Thank you for the invitation to join you tonight. My name is Steve Miller, and I'd just like to thank the Tea-Party Board and Pete for inviting me tonight to speak. I guess I'll just give you some brief comments on some history back in 2009. Back in 2009, the first rising up in my mind about the whole Tea Party attitude, the whole Tea Party idea was prompted by an American Family Association email that I had gotten, and also Rick Santelli. If you're familiar with Rick, he's a financial analyst, guru, TV spokesperson, etc., on the floor of the Chicago Mercantile Exchange, and he did an epic rant on what should be done about the federal government and the Federal Reserve and the Congress's overreach and bailouts of private entities with public money, etc. He saw he saw the tea leaves forming, and he saw that this whole train was speeding up and barreling towards the abyss a lot quicker. So I volunteered. I signed up on AFA.com to lead a April 15th tax day protest, to protest the bailout, stimulus. I guess stimulus one was what they were terming it at the time, which is I think around $1 trillion, if I remember correctly. So I started getting in touch with people, and other people that had also volunteered to help were Caroline Strasser. I think most of you know Caroline. And also Noreen Loris from Middle Smithfield Township. There were several other volunteers and people that came right on board real quickly, and I can't remember, I apologize, I can't remember all their names. It's been a couple of years. So, but I sure did appreciate the help, and we had a lot of gung-ho people in that time frame. But we used the platform meetup.com to communicate with a really fast-growing group of patriots and citizens who were really concerned and wanted to do something. And coordinating volunteers and making signs and getting ready for the April 15th shindig down in Courthouse Square. So we decided to have it at Stroudsburg, the county seat, the Courthouse Square. So we ended up that day, April 15th, we did attract about 500 people to the square that day. And that was actually a lot more than we had anticipated. It was pretty neat. And some of the guys from the West End of Kunkletown or Presbyville area, they even showed up with pitchforks in hand. So I was glad to see that. That's great. So Mike Avery, Caroline, and myself, along with a core group of 5 to 10 other people, so we decided, okay, what are we going to do now after the tax day protest? So I think there was about 7 Obama-file progressive agitators out there with their, signs at the outskirts. There was about 7 of them, I believe. So there was some token opposition. I believe one of them was Lois Heckman, who writes a column for the Pocono Record. She was, I do remember her being one of the 7. Good old Lois. Anyway, so we decided to have a 4th of July Tea-Party over in East Stroudsburg, over Dansbury Depot, Miller Park. So we organized that. We had a very successful party protest July 3rd. We had speakers come in from as far away up as Matamoros, Pennsylvania, from the Sons of Liberty group up there. This was very successful, networking people together, getting people building the awareness of basically it's a resistance movement is what I envisioned it to be, against the Leviathan of federal government and actually certain state capitals too that were trying to be like, DC. So leading up to the midterm elections in 2010, we did have a lot of success. Everyone remembers that. That was a Tea-Party wave election when we sent hundreds of progressives to the unemployment line, or at least into the lobbying business. So they probably make more money as a lobbyist than a Congress critter anyway. So that was exciting. After 2010, it started to drift, and I started to see some troubling associations. And I started to see some co-opting of the movement, especially nationally. And I didn't want to have anything to do with that. I just wanted a citizen-driven rebellion to take back the country. And it just didn't work out. Because here we are in 2016. The federal government's more powerful than ever. They're shooting citizens on the side of the road to avoid Finnegan. You can Google it. You can look it up if you want to. So dissidents are assassinated on the side of the road that stand up to Leviathan, and very little is done. So that's basically what I have to say about that. So the other reason Pete wanted me to come tonight was to speak about personal rights, individual rights and liberties, and personal preparedness. And that's what I'll transition into now. Not sure if any of you guys are REM fans, but REM had a song way back that was called The End of the World as We Know It. You remember? It's the end of the world as we know it. But that's basically, it's got a nickname, it's called T.E.A.Party, and it's in the prepper movement, which has been on a lot of cable programming. It's been exploited, and it's for its commercial value now for 4 or 5 years. The prepper movement has certainly gone mainstream, whereas before it was sort of a niche market, I guess you'd say, or a niche hobby for folks. Basically, prepping, I think, is a responsibility as an individual. If you're an individual, the way I look at it, if you're for protecting minority rights, the smallest minority is the individual, is you. You're one individual. That's the smallest minority on the face of the earth. So if you're into individual liberties and individual rights and minority rights, then the individual's rights have to trump external forces, whether they come from Harrisburg, whether they come from DC, whether they come from the EPA, whether they come from the ATF, any of the alphabet agencies. Your right as a human being made by the Creator trumps those edicts, those decrees. I'm sure you're all familiar with the latest decree about politically correct bathrooms. So, I could say a lot about that, but you already know. But at any rate, as an individual, you are responsible for you. That's where it all starts. So that's the frame, that's the mindset that I have been cultivating and developing since 2009, 2010. Basically, after the election of Obama, I'll give you a little background. I was at a social gathering, and someone was commenting to me, and I'm paraphrasing this, there could be rioting in the streets. So I don't exactly remember the context of, how he went from the impending inauguration of Barack Obama, Barry Soetoro, to rioting in the streets. But it did cause me to start thinking about that. And I started looking at our society and our country, and how it's currently structured. What's the structure of our society? I had never given 5 seconds thought to that prior to that conversation. So I did use the internet, because I know everything on the internet is true, so you can just trust everything you find there. So I used the internet and I read books. You all know what books are, right? The people in this room, I think, know what books are. And I started to gain a view that our technological prowess and our our systems and our computer-linked ordering and just-in-time delivery, get it now, pay for it later, convenience. Society maybe, wasn't as solid as everyone thinks it is. So, I mean, think about it. How many minutes of each day does the average American think about, for example, how will I stay warm enough tonight so as not to freeze to death in February in Pennsylvania? Florida, well, that's another issue. But how many minutes a day does the average American spend thinking about how will I obtain enough food of any type to feed myself and my kids? What am I going to do to obtain water to cook and to bathe with today? Here's another good one. How many Americans ask themselves this question every day? Will the roving band of looters venture into my cul-de-sac today to conduct scavenging and looting operations? And if so, what can I do? So, I started working out scenarios in my mind of regional or national or even a local event or disaster, dislocation, whatever you want to call it. And I started to just evaluate, how prepared was I? I thought of Hurricane Katrina, which was much more recent history back then, and I thought about FEMA, and then I remembered that around 1,100 people died from that relatively survivable flooding event, right? It's not like a hurricane had never come ashore at New Orleans. So a lot of those people that died down there thought that Big Daddy government was going to ride in on a white horse and save them at the last moment. Even after their common sense was telling them, move inland, go to safety. Then I just really came to the attitude and the realization that government has no care in the world for me or for my family, and government most likely will not be ready, will not be willing, and will not be able to rescue me or my family in the event of a dislocation. And that means that I am the only one who can save the day. But how? How do you do it? So, I don't present myself as an expert in prepping. I'm certainly a student of prepping. I'm a student of learning the old ways that are mostly forgotten. They're not practiced. Some of the seniors here remember when they were growing up what life was like. The basic things that had to happen, because life wasn't about convenience. Life was just life. That's just the way it was. And life went on, right? And life was good. And life is still good. When I first got into the prepper mentality, I experienced a lot of negative feedback. From family and from friends, especially my wife. My lovely wife. And looking back, I think that she was reading that as negativity. You're a doomer, you're a gloomer. It's all doom and gloom. That's all you talk about. That's all you worry about. Nothing's ever gonna, don't worry about it. Nothing that bad ever happens. It's America. I've gradually corrupted her. She's finally on board. But it's an amazing thing. Just changing the way you think. And I got off track there a little bit, I apologize. But basically what I'm trying to say is I haven't lived through any of these major dislocations. I wasn't in New Orleans when Katrina came ashore. I have not really been through much of anything in my life. But I read a lot and I study a lot and I study people who have and their experiences, and I glean insights from them because they are the watchmen on the wall. They're the ones that are trying to impart their skills and their experience to other people. And who knows, that might just, save my son's life or my daughter's life one day, or my grandkids. I'm relying on the experience and the viewpoints of others that have done this and have gone through this. Those are the people that you should study and research and try to figure things out now before a dislocation. Since the days of Adam and Eve, once evicted from their awesome garden apartment in Eden, families have had to be concerned with shelter, food, clothing, defense, and societal structures. That's the basics. Ever since the Garden of Eden. And people just have not really had to think about that much since I was a kid in the 70s, because America has worshipped the God of convenience for a long time now. And everything is about convenience, and everything is about entertainment, and it's empty. It's just emptiness. And reality has a way of coming up and smacking you on the back of the head with a 2x4 when you least expect it. So, these are some reasons that you should look into prepping. Even if you decide not to do it, that's up to you. But you should consider it for some important reasons. Number one, unemployment. For those of you still in the workforce, real unemployment is running between 11 and 24%. You could be next, I could be next. I was next. I was laid off from a great job and a great career the year after Obama took office. I guess that didn't help me with my attitude towards him. So I had to scramble. I was unemployed for 1 year. And I had a great skill set. But as we all know, this economy is in transition. It's transitioning downward. We just don't know how far downward. Jobs are going across the seas, and they may never be back. I was laid off for 1 year. It was a struggle. I was not prepared. I was totally unprepared. Luckily, I had good credit, and my credit cards got me through, which I'm still paying off 6 years later. But that is one benefit of good credit. You can ride out a rough spot. But unemployment is a real possibility. You see it more and more. They manipulate the figures. They manipulate the figures. It's not really BLS, Bureau of Labor Statistics. It's Bureau of Lies and Statistics. That's what the real deal is there. Just so we're clear. Anyway, moving on. Number two. The next reason you should consider prepping is because our financial house of cards is getting really shaky. The financial superstructure that is this country, that is the Federal Reserve, that is congressional borrowing tune of a deficit of $1 trillion a year is getting a little shaky. You can just ask these experts: Gerald Salente, Kyle Bass, Rick Santelli, Chris Martinson. Financial industry experts all over are ratcheting up their warnings. Search on the internet. Research the death of the dollar. Research the death of the petrodollar. Petrodollar is the arrangement that we forced on the world after World War II with our Bretton Woods financial agreement that oil should be traded on world markets only in United States dollars. So dollar hegemony is coming to an end. The dollar may not exist 5 years from now. If all of your financial assets are tied up in dollars or treasury bills, and there is no dollar, then you've got Weimar Republic wallpaper or fire starter, right? Everybody knows what the Weimar Republic is, right? That led to a really nasty thing called the Third Reich. Anyway.
Everybody knows Zimbabwe.
Yeah, in Zimbabwe. Okay. Yep. Hyperinflation. Third reason you should consider seriously looking into prepping. The number and the size of natural disasters is increasing. I'm certainly not a anthropomorphic global warming proponent. In other words, if the atmosphere is doing crazy things, it's not because of your sport utility vehicle. It's not because of factories churning out carbon. Carbon is great. Plants love it, right? Carbon dioxide. I'm sorry, not carbon. Carbon dioxide. They make oxygen. It's a great process. But natural disasters the frequency is increasing. Number 4, you're not 16 anymore. I'm not 16 anymore. I've got family, I've got close friends that depend on me. I've got a wife, I've got a child, I've got children, I've got grandchildren that depend on me. And in a dislocation, in an event, they're going to depend on me even more. And the same goes for you. You all have, maybe except Tony, but you all have family except for Tony, maybe. Tony's got the groundhogs. And they will look to depend on you when something isn't normal. Number 5, you won't look stupid. Don't worry about it. You don't actually have to wear a tinfoil hat, when you go outside of your house, when you go to the mall, when you come to these meetings at the T.E.A.Party, you don't have to wear that. Prepping is mainstream now, like I mentioned before. It's big business. It's growing by leaps and bounds. Even if your neighbors and your friends don't mention it, they're thinking about it. They may be afraid to talk about it for fear of what you might think of them. So that's basically my mindset on prepping and preparation, and I'd be happy to answer any of your questions. I don't have any more prepared remarks. I did prepare some photocopy lists of resources on the web, and books, magazine subscriptions, etc. And they're available at the table there. They're free to each take a copy. If we do run out, simply put your name on there. I'll email you a digital copy of it. But at this time, if there's any questions, I'll take questions and answer them the best I can. All right, well, I'll be available after Mr. Bayless is done for any other questions. Thank you very much. Thanks, folks.